Hey guys, today I'm going to be making my chocolate chip muffins, whole food plant-based, a really simple set of ingredients. I hope you're able to stick around and watch exactly how it's done. Okay, to get started on our chocolate chip muffins, we're really only going to need a few ingredients. But before we get to the ingredients, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody who's already liked and subscribed to my page. If you haven't already, it really makes a huge difference, and I would love you all the more for it. But for this recipe, we're just going to need 1 cup of a plant milk. I'm using my new pecan milk. We have 2 tablespoons of chia seeds that we'll be using as our binding agent. We have 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and 2 tablespoons of your favorite liquid sweetener. Personally, I'm using agave, but maple syrup will also work in this recipe. We have 1 cup of an oat flour, and if you're not sure how to make it, I've got the link below on how I make mine. And then we have 1 cup of a whole wheat flour. We also have 1 teaspoon of baking soda and then another teaspoon of baking powder. And lastly, we have half of a cup of chocolate chips, which you could also use cacao nibs. Really, we're just trying to make sure they're vegan and don't have any of the extra processed oils in them. And then lastly, but not lastly, we have a mold for our muffins. I'm using my nice silicone mold, and then we need a blender. I'm using my blender bottle, but any blender will work to blend up our chia seed to create our binding agent. So I'm gonna bring you guys in here and we're gonna get started on this recipe. Okay, the first thing that we're gonna need to do is blend up our chia seed with our plant milk and our sweeteners, or our sweetener and our vanilla extract, and that is just going to make sure that we have a good binding agent, and I like to do that first because it ensures it gives it a good enough time to kind of globulize together. We're gonna add in our vanilla extract and our liquid sweetener, and this is going to blend for somewhere around 30 seconds, depending on how high speed your blender is. So we are going to get that blending, and we'll go. All right, we let that blend for right around a minute. That looks like it has been nice and mixed thoroughly. So now we're gonna bring our mixing bowl over and get started with the rest of our recipe. Okay, here's our mixing bowl. Now I like to go in, add my oat flour, whole wheat flour, baking soda, and baking powder, and just go in and make sure that it gets nice and mixed together. So we are just going to give it a good mix. I find that sometimes if you don't do this, the one flour can kind of bind to itself a little easier. So that looks good. Next, we're going to add in our wet ingredients, so our chia seed plant milk mixture, which you see has a good texture. I'm going to add that in. And now I like to go in, mix it around pretty good. You don't want to overwork it, but give it a good mix. Awesome, we've got a good mixture there. Now lastly, we're just going to add in our chocolate chips. Now the key here is we're not going to try to overwork our mixture. We're just going to mix those chocolate chips or cacao nibs in there. That looks fantastic. Now I'm going to bring my mold over here, and personally I like to use my 1/4 of a cup measuring spoon just to scoop them out and get them in there. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on that. All right, now we've got our mixture here. I just like to, or our mold to fit in there, and I just like to go in, tap it down a little bit, and then one trick I always use is I use a baking sheet, and this is what we're going to bake it on, because if this silicone goes directly on the racks in the oven, it can overheat and kind of burn the bottom. So we're going to take this over to the oven, which has been preheated to 425. Now we've got our pre-muffins ready. The oven has been preheated to 425 degrees, and we are going to keep the muffins in at that temp for 5 minutes, and that's really just to get a good amount of rise, initial rise. We're then going to drop the temp to 375, but we'll be back in about 5 minutes to show you how those look. Okay, our 5-minute timer just came off. You can see they've risen up nicely. Now we're going to drop that temp to 375 degrees for another 25 minutes. Our timer just went off. Let's open her up and see how they look. Oh, they look fantastic. I'm going to get the kitchen cleaned up a little bit, get these cooling off for a second, and I will see you in just a second. I'm back. We got the kitchen tidied up, and these muffins look and smell absolutely fantastic. I really hope you guys saw how simple this recipe is. If you go ahead and give it a try, please let me know how it goes in the comment section below. And make sure if you're on YouTube or Facebook, please give me a like and subscribe. It really helps out with the mission, spreading the good news of a plant-based diet. I'm going to go ahead and give one of these guys a try. That should be nice and moist in the middle. It is chocolate melting everywhere. Absolutely fantastic. These have become a new favorite of Dr. Miller's, and I get requests to make these quite often now, but are really simple ingredients. A part of my whole food plant-based holiday recipe list, so if you haven't already, head over to plantbasedgabriel.com, go to the recipes, and there you can find the whole food plant-based holiday recipe list of what I'll be making for this upcoming Thanksgiving and Christmas season. I really hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, and I will hopefully see you guys very, very soon.